All right, well, we're in Sydney today. I'm with somebody it's very hard to say his last name. So I've been practicing a few times leading up to this. But we're in Sydney and I'm with Emmanuel Georgoudis. There we go. I got it.
Yeah.
Just for the listeners, I tried 5 times to get that name correct. 6 times. Jeez. So if we go back in time, actually, before the podcast was an audio and video podcast, it was a written podcast, which actually stems why it was called the Rental Journal, because it was written. And Emmanuel was actually one of our original written interviews. So this is going well before the podcast even existed. So I wanted to bring you onto the podcast, and I know your story, and I wanted to share it even more because a lot's happened since we spoke last. So welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me. I've been following the journey of it, since I was on with the written many years ago. And it's been phenomenal, to see it grow leaps and bounds, and people are talking so much more about it now. You've had quite a lot of influential figures, and it's just a really good listen. So I'm very appreciative to be here.
Very nice. So look, I know your story, and I've known how far you've come in your career with Coates, and then also your involvement with the HRIA today. But I think it would be good just to share your journey with some of the people in the industry, just to understand how you made your career and sort of where you got to. So maybe just want to talk through how you first got into the industry. Yeah,
sure. It's definitely been quite the journey. So I was in the middle of finishing my HSC at the ripe age of 17, and like most 17-year-olds, not really sure what they want to do. What I did know that I was looking at getting into was going to uni, and I wanted to complete a Bachelor of Commerce. Not sure on majors, but I just always felt that business was where I thrived and a lot of my passion came from. So about 2 weeks before my HSC finished, my stepdad at the time, Doug Levings, was working for National HRIA in the All Light division, and he saw an opportunity come up at accounts payable. Now I was looking at getting potentially into business, and he suggested, getting into accounts in a large business like National HRIA can show me the ropes on how a business operates, and see, just dip my toes in and see if that's what I'd like to do. So really, the rest is history from there. I started with National a week after HSC finished. So whilst all my mates were off at schoolies, I started at National at the time.
Yeah. And then just for the listeners, so National eventually merged with Coates, which there's probably a lot of people that used to work at National that are part of Coates, and there's the whole Coates side. But that's a pretty big jump here to go from HSC 1 week and then straight into work. Was that a conscious decision, or what was the sort of thought process through that?
Yeah, so look, when I with anything that I've always done in life, when I commit, I give 100%. And when they said, yep, it's the first kind of roll out of a McDonald's or the local kebab shop in Bowral that I worked for, that I actually was given the opportunity. So when they asked me, when are you available to start, I actually put it back on them and said, when would you like me to start? And they gave me the date. And I thought, great, it's my opportunity. I'm going to grab it and go with it. So that's basically why I didn't want to, as much as I could have, and I'm sure they would have been understanding, just said, look, if I can have a few weeks and then start. But, from them giving me a date, I believe that was the initial expectation to start my professional career. So I thought I need for myself to start on a positive and just get into it.
But did you know how big the industry actually was? I feel like that's something that most people, when they first get involved in the industry, they don't realise that most equipment they see on the side of the road is actually hired.
Yes.
And they think that the construction companies just own all that equipment. And then as soon as you realise, then you start seeing the names on the side, oh, wait a second. Yeah. This industry is way bigger than what I expected it to be. Yeah. Was that your experience as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when I first started, so it was an accounts payable role, but my first non-official title was the CFO.
Okay.
Yes. People kind of raise their eyes when I say that, right? I've actually got the business card to prove it, all right? National HRIA's CFO.
Okay.
So
I wanted to verify this is Steve Donnelly.
Yeah, absolutely. You can. So I was in the same office with Steve too, right? And that was quite a blessing in itself. But my first 3 months of employment. I turned up basically after day 2, and there was a massive stack of papers taller than the filing cabinets. I had to put those papers into those cabinets. So for 3 months, I became the chief filing officer.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Yes.
Okay.
So the business card to prove it. And yeah, again, that was the first task they gave me. And, I, respected, what the task was. I didn't question it. Got in, got it done. So I guess at that point, I was more on the account side. Really did not know anything from the hire aspect. And I think that's one of the beauties of the hire game. There's so many different aspects that you can take your career. So again, met myself starting in accounts. Within a year and a half, whilst I was also at uni at Wollongong, kind of changed my major in commerce to management, and had a bit of an epiphany one day and thought, looked around the office and thought I'll probably have, in terms of my career, better opportunity to become a manager in Branchland. So I moved over to a hire controller role at the time, which is customer service coordinator at Alexandria.
So I just want to stop you there. So,
Sure.
So did you stop uni at that point as well and focus on your career at National?
No.
Okay, so you still continued university?
Correct. So at that point, I was living in Wollongong, studying in Wollongong, and was working, at the time, it was Mascot. And then when I moved to the branch, it was Alexandria.
Okay.
Yes.
And then you finished your degree, did you?
No, so I ended up going part-time uni and dragging out subject by subject, stretching, living in Wollongong, working up in Alexandria. Now, 2 days before my 21st birthday, I got promoted to the youngest ever branch manager at Coates. So it's after the merge. There were 226 stores at the time. And at that point, I was still at uni. And I started getting really stretched. I felt that I wasn't able to give everything to uni, and I wasn't able to give everything to, being a 20-year-old manager. So I put the uni on hold, as I felt I can return to that, but my opportunity right now is, managing, a small team at this young age.
Yeah.
So yeah, I ended up putting a hold on that. But then over the years, through other, diplomas and such, the company did assist me in attaining a lot of qualifications.
Yeah, because I think it's an important thing to talk about. Like, university isn't the only option.
Yes.
Like, you probably would have seen the perspective as like, wait a second, like there's an entire career path that I could sort of weasel my way through depending on what I'm interested in and how much effort I put in, rather than like just going to university, doing the 3-4 years, whatever it might be, and then trying to figure out a job. Because like now you're earning money, you're a branch manager. Like I feel like a lot of people, like they don't think about that when they're finishing school, and that there is opportunities to work. Like they just think that the only thing outside of university is like TAFE or trades. But there's so many different aspects that you can sort of get yourself into. And then becoming the youngest branch manager, you said, in the network.
Correct.
21, you said?
Yeah, so it was 2 days before my 21st birthday. So I claim I was 20, but I started the role when I was 21.
All right, so it's one of those like footy things where it's like, 16 years old playing football, but really he's basically 17.
Yeah.
That's still an amazing achievement, but yeah, like that's like, why do you think you got promoted to that role at such a young age?
So I think if anything, it'd come down to my enthusiasm, probably my maturity as well. So one thing that I learned early on was don't get overly, and this is probably one of the things I battled with my enthusiasm, don't get overly excited or trigger happy. And what that kind of meant was, especially when you're young, you learn and learn, and then you're like, I'm ready to be the manager, I'm ready. I think that there's certain time frames that you still need to learn that whole core foundation before you can move into that next said role. So for me, it was balancing enthusiasm with patience as well. So understanding I could be enthusiastic and keep learning, but I was never disheartened when opportunities were coming up and I was overlooked. I knew when my time was ready, I would jump. And that's exactly what happened.
It wasn't very long, but
no, look, yeah.
It wasn't like you're waiting 5 years. Like you're waiting like almost 2 years. Yeah, basically.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and at the time, so Alexandria has been the largest tool and equipment store in Sydney for coats. So it's always been that branch where you make it there, you'll make it anywhere. And there's some very influential people within our business, within our industry that have managed Coates Alexandria. For me to step in to the largest branch, the branch manager had his wife had a child, so he took a few months off. I actually stepped into running the back-end reports to assist him without him actually asking. So I think that's where that enthusiasm kind of came in to say, hey, this won't get done if nobody does it. So I spoke to the area manager and said, look, James is off, can I have a crack at it? And I think that did impress, and so that was Jarvie. So Jarvie was the area manager at the time. He was down at Donnelly. And Jarv spent some time with me and showed me how to run a P&L and do disputes and all that stuff, which generally as a high controller you wouldn't do. So I think because I was so proactive in wanting to learn that managerial side, and I was given the opportunity with James away for a bit of time to show myself sitting in that seat. Yeah,
I think showing an interest and saying yes to more things is like a massive lever to moving forward in your career. Because like one thing that I've said this on like an old record, me saying this on the podcast, but like I think something I hate is when people say that's not my job. Like that is like you're basically just stunting your career growth. Yeah.
Yes.
As soon as you do that, like people are going to judge you. Like
Yes.
people are going to be like, why would I want to promote that person if they're just going to like want to sit in their box and just do their job? Which you want some of those people sometimes. You want those people just to grind out and do their job, but then you also want to find out like who are the people that want to make a difference and make a name for themselves in the industry and whatnot. So like you doing that, I think like obviously then like made waves internally. Was like, oh, this guy's actually showing an interest and whatnot. I think the stuff that you got to be careful of is like if you're helping out someone, you don't make them feel like you're trying to take their job, because then they get threatened. They're like, wait a second, why are you doing my job?
Yeah.
But obviously it worked out very well for you. So and you're helping him in a time where it was obviously under a lot of pressure having a kid.
Yeah, absolutely. And probably on the back of that, so when he did return, and then he had to take more time off, all of a sudden I kind of became his 2IC. Like informally, the team would look up to me. I would run the pre-starts, so it kind of naturally progressed. And then I actually asked him, a few months later when he took some more time off for personal reasons, can you make it known to the team that, for anything needed, that they come to myself, so I felt that had to be announced. Although it was kind of there, it was almost then him
like formalising.
Yeah, formalising it, and he did. Look, over the time, I managed to gain, a lot of respect from the older guys, and I think that was a challenge within itself. Starting off as a 21-year-old manager, managing talking 16 years ago, people that were 3 times my age, absolutely came with its challenges.
Yeah, so talk to me about that, because obviously straight away they're like, what does this young whippersnapper know? Like, I've done this for 20 years already. Why is he telling me what I need to do? Like, how did you sort of manage in that path?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of it came down to empathy, right? So really just empathy from me, but also communicating with them and making them understand, what would happen if you were in my shoes. So there was one particular example where there was a driver who said at the end of the day, oh, here's a delivery, can you do this on your way home? And he basically said that, no, I don't need to listen to you. My granddaughter's older than you. So I kind of...
That's a bit of a punch in the face, isn't it?
Absolutely. So I took a few seconds, and my response was almost word for word, because I feel like it was a really pivotal role, time in my life, was, well, that's fine, but at the end of the day, your role is to drive, my role is to orchestrate deliveries and manage the team. If you don't want to drive, then you can come and sit here, give me the keys, I'll jump in the truck. But then you're going to have to manage time cards, you're going to have to manage this, you're going to have to be here at 7, you have to leave at, whatever time, because that is my role. So if you're saying that you don't need to listen to me, then you can hand me those keys. The next day, he brought in a caramel latte for me, which was my coffee of choice at the time, and apologised.
Nice.
So I think, and that came down to me, explaining, well, this, it's just communicating, this is my role, this is your role. But it did come with its challenges. But from there, I did start to really shift a lot of respect. And when we're talking about saying yes, all right, so being a people pleaser, it's easy for me to say yes to everything. And one thing that I did learn quite quickly to gain respect, I always thought saying yes to everyone is the best way to get on their good side. That's far from the truth,
Yeah, it's definitely, there's a line. And I was trying to explain this to someone the other day. It's like that, like if you just say like to get ahead in your career, you got to say yes to more stuff. Like that is partly true, but then like you need to figure out like what is the actual goal? Like, did you want to learn more about the way that we service equipment? Yes. It's, can you go refuel the equipment? Blah blah blah. Like it's like then that yes is a different, like you're wanting to learn rather than just doing stuff because people are asking you to do it. So it's really a balance, because if you do fall into that trap where you are a yes man and you're just trying to please everyone, like you're never going to find the end goal of happiness. Like it's just an endless road of saying yeses, and then you just feel the anxiety and pressure to uphold what they've asked you to do.
Definitely. And I think, when we go back to, managing teams and gaining respect, it is about being able, being a manager, you've got to be able to make those decisions. Qualify them and back that decision up. So if it's a no, explain why. So going from that people pleaser to, you can have this day, or yes, you can, say no, explain why, and maybe come up with some kind of an agreement. And over time, that is how I did manage to really grow my team. And right up until today, the one thing that I'm almost most proud of is the team culture that I build in my teams. Anyone that's worked in my teams will say how much that they enjoy it, but it's a fine line between, enjoying it and high performance. I do think there is a direct correlation with those. I'm not a mechanic, but if I can keep a mechanic, happy, they just want to be on the tools. They want to be, swinging spanners and fixing machines. So they can do that if they're happy. And that's my job to keep them happy. And they will do their job and they'll do it well.
Yeah. Have you always had like that burst of energy personality? Like, has that always been you, do you think?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So.
And how have you navigated that? Because like, obviously I think, I think that's obviously helped you a lot in your career to get ahead. But as you've got older, has that changed a lot? Like I still feel like you're super energetic. Like you, I feel like if you wanted to go out for a drink, you want to have a bit of a party, like you're the guy that's going to help get the party going, but you're also the guy that can lend a hand with advice and whatnot. So how has that changed, do you think? And do you see that rubbing off on people that you work with?
So I absolutely think I have shifted and channeled a lot of my energy. Absolutely, I'm still very, energetic in the way that I speak. I'm very passionate and enthusiastic in, what I do. But I do think the last few years in particular, I really have, matured into that next level in my personal and professional career. And I think part of that is channeling in a bit of that energy and excitement. But at the same time, it's who I am and it's got me to where I am. So, I'm not strategically changing who I am for the sake of it. It's a lot of learnings as well. Yeah,
and I think having a child...
Well, absolutely.
Puts pressure at home, and then things can't always be perfect and happy. Like you can't always have like a facade on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel like that's what comes with that personality in a way. Like everyone's like, damn, Emmanuel's so happy all the time. You know what I mean? And then as you mature, you realize that that just wears down on you as well. So I'm interested to see how that changes. Because me looking on the outside, even just like reading like what you wrote on the rental journal, written interview, and then seeing what you're doing today,
Yes.
there's a clear career trajectory.
Yes.
And so there's a bit of a blueprint there, I think, for other people in the industry to try and follow.
Yeah.
Same as Tom Wood, same as Michael Larson, and there's a whole bunch of other people that are in a similar category.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, a big change and shift was when I did have my son Thomas as well. So I definitely feel that everything that I now do has really been revolving around him. And I think that's really challenged the way that I present myself. And also, as we continue, you know, with where I'm now in my career, you know, I do have so much to offer and so much to give back to, you know, the industry and to, you know, and to my company. So being able to, you know, express and provide that kind of comes in different waves of energy, I guess.
And so the listeners are probably like, yeah, but what does this guy actually do at Coates? Like they're probably asking right now. We're talking about his career, but so if we fast forward to today, it's like, what is your actual role today at Coates?
Yep. So currently I am the National Operations Centre Manager.
That's a long business card name, that one.
Oh, it's almost as long as my name.
Okay.
So we do have an acronym for it, the NOC.
Okay,
right, so
this is just getting better.
Knock.
That's it.
So it's I was very, very fortunate to be given the opportunity to establish a division from nothing this time last year in Coates. An absolute phenomenal opportunity, you know, to be presented. You know, there's a new division that we want to start in, you know, a large company like Coates, and we want you to lead it. So that in itself has been, you know, absolutely a big step forward in my career. But what is the NOC, and what is it that I'm establishing? So the National Operations Centre has basically come to life, looking at different, I guess, customer bases that our customer service centres across Australia look at, and looking at what can we look at centralising to get more consistency for our customer base. Currently, we have two divisions in the NOC. One of them is a sales team that looks after a national footprint, and the second team looks after all of our online inquiries that come through, including any orders for our national agreement with Bunnings. So you can now go to any Bunnings in Australia and hire gear through Coates. Each one of those hires is basically orchestrated and fulfilled through my team in Mascot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
I'm going to go down on a tangent on that in a second. But
okay.
yeah, I'm very interested to talk about that.
Yeah. So yeah, for me, you know, with all that branch experience over the years, managing, leading teams, I've now started a brand new division that has a sales team, an operational team, and a lot of really cool additional functions that'll be coming through in the next 12 months.
So maybe just briefly, like, what is the agreement with Bunnings and Coates essentially?
Yeah, so it's basically a partnership where you can go to any Bunnings across Australia now and hire a selection of 26 different product types through Coates. So I guess the idea is you're at Bunnings on, you know, whatever day, and you go and buy a few bits and pieces, but there's you know, something, whether it's a scissor or a floor grinder that you may need. You can go up to the hire shop, you can place the order, either head to a Coates store and collect it, or it can be arranged for delivery for, you know, when you'd like it. So yeah, it is exciting. Bunnings have released a bunch of online marketing through radios, online radio, digital radio. I've heard it on AM, promoting the partnership. So it's definitely exciting there. And we've taken quite a few learnings away as well. So it's still quite new in the relationship, and we're actually now trialling in 4 Bunnings warehouses equipment that is in the warehouses. So one in Brizzy and a couple in Victoria.
Yeah, I think it's a massive opportunity. You probably just need to figure out, like, how do you get the higher experience in a Bunnings store? Like, that's, I think, the biggest challenge. I'm trying to figure that out. But I've said this for a long time. It's like whoever can nail, like you just got to look at Home Depot. Home Depot is, I think they're the third largest rental company in the US now.
Yep.
And like they're basically a replica of Bunnings, but just obviously much, much larger. So I think if Coates can navigate that Bunnings relationship well and make it more public and make the experience seamless, so you can walk in and talk to someone that understands the equipment and whatnot, it'll be a very, very interesting process when they're starting to compete with, like, because if you're going to buy stuff, you can also rent stuff at the same time.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be a journey. Like, it's not going to work from day one. Like, it's going to be a journey, and I think Coates needs to put a lot of effort into figuring out what's working, what isn't. And it sounds like you guys are on the path by putting equipment in there. It's probably stage one. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is a partnership, with any partnership. So, there's two sides to it. And, I think we need to just keep the finger on the pulse and work together. And as we're learning, we are pivoting and shifting to any of those findings as well. So stay tuned. That's
it. So I want to talk about the Hire and Rental Industry Association, the HRIA.
Yes.
So what's your involvement, and how's your involvement evolved over time?
Yeah, sure. So I've been very, very blessed with the opportunities that presented themselves within the HRIA. So currently I am the New South Wales president and sit on the board, which is really exciting for me. And in terms of what we spoke about earlier, with my enthusiasm and that energy, sitting in board meetings, sometimes it's to kind of channel some of that energy, and then that's with that maturity. So all these experiences have really led into shaping the way that I carry myself today. But in 2018, I attended Hire 18, and in the morning there was a chat. It was like a president's chat, and on the front, so it was a massive big stage, and on the stage was Mark Burton, Andy Kennard, and a whole bunch of other industry leaders and owners. And I'm thinking, wow, like I've been part of Coates and National and really had my focus on what we're doing, and to sit there and see leaders across competing companies be mates, as we share the same challenges, share the same winnings, and we at the end of the day work together. We want to be able to provide hire solutions to our customers ultimately, and it just blew my mind away. Never did I think I'd see all just having a good old chat and and having a bite to eat at lunch. And I thought, what, I'm setting a goal to be sitting up there one day with those leaders. That is my ambition. Just keep growing my professional career, and one day I will be up there. So that was really, really cool. And the following year, in 2019, the HRIA piloted the young professionals. So I applied and was fortunate enough to be selected for the pilot program, where I first officially met James, the CEO, and some of the national office. And that was quite a good learning too. That's where I first got, paired up with my mentor, Jason Lagua. And it was really, really good for me to grow. Again, both professionally and personally. And for me, the key in anything is networking. I managed to network so well within the YPN that year, and was fortunate enough from there to be selected in the American Rental Association magazine as one of the top 10 managers to watch under 40 in the world. So I thought that was awesome, and that was an opportunity that came from the HRIA.
Yeah, nice.
And from there, I just on my own accord started attending some meetings. Any of the state meetings. I just attended the local ones, some that were, wherever they may have been, up at the Central Coast and wherever. But so last year I was given a phenomenal opportunity, and I was actually nominated and presented to be the president for New South Wales.
I feel like you've just hit a lot of milestones in a relatively short span of time. It'd be interesting to see how that trajectory keeps going. Just
yes.
in what is what's the analogy? It's like, how much money is enough money? And it's like, you can never, like, some people just can't stop. Like, it doesn't stop. And it's the same thing with like career, yeah?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like you could just keep going as hard as you want. Like, where do you, like, if you went forward another 10 years, like, what's that next? You said that you went on stage and you saw, I want to be like someone like that. Like, forward 10 years from now, like, do you have any ambitions, like goals that you want to hit, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, part of my growth and development, when I go back to a bit earlier, I mentioned you need to be patient, right? So I thoroughly believe to be successful, you need to just keep being that sponge and learning and asking questions, but being patient as well. So for me, I believe the sweet spot is between 3 to 5 years in any role. Every role I've taken since the CFO, I would learn for 3 years. I would learn it inside out and know those foundations. And at that 3rd year mark, I'd make sure that it was at a better place than it was when I first started. So then always left a role or branch, a position better than what I started in. And then the next 2 years was getting myself out there for what's the next step. So that 3 to 5 year mark, I believe, is that sweet spot. After 5 years, I believe you can become complacent. You blink and you've been in the role for 10, 15 years. And that's absolutely fine. But for me, I want to keep growing.
Yeah.
So we're talking 10 years from now. I do see myself, being on an executive level. I'm still 35, so still quite young. But yeah, absolutely. That's my goal, is to be sitting, in an executive position, however that may look. But again, that 3 to 5 year mark right now, establishing a business within Coates, big opportunity. It's been 1 year now, so I'm still committing, to getting this up and running and leaving it, again, better than when I started. So the fact that it started from nothing, it's a great opportunity. So yeah, and I think because of my professional career wanting to step into more of the executive role, the opportunity with the HRIA to sit on the board and learn a lot of the ins and outs around that is really helping me progress through experience again to become an executive.
Yeah, we'll have to timestamp this and then we'll do another interview in 5 years, mate.
Yes, stay tuned.
Stay tuned. No, that's good, mate. I'm very happy for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Like I enjoy watching people's careers progress and whatnot. And Coates is a beast in itself. Yeah, like there's so much opportunities. But yeah, I'm sure, like the trajectory that you're on at the moment, I'm sure whatever you set your mind to, I think you'll achieve. So
yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah, the balance part, I think, is if you flip the other side. I'm not sure if you were in the. You would have been in that meeting in the Young Professional Network when someone asked me like, "Hey, what's the most common topics that people bring up on the podcast?" Were you in that? And
Yes, I was. Yes.
Yeah, and like I brought up a few things, but like one thing that people bring up frequently at an executive level is that like they regret not spending as much time with their family. Like they've been so gung-ho on like building this business or career or whatever it is, and then they get to 45, 50 and their kids are kind of grown up and it's like I can't get that time back.
Yeah.
So I'm really like trying to stay mindful of that. That's like, because you can't, like once they get old, like they grow up, then they're not kids anymore, yeah? Like even like your son's 3.
Yep, coming up, 3.
Yeah, my son's like, he's 2 today actually. It's his birthday today.
Oh, there you go. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Joshua.
Happy birthday, Joshua.
But yeah, so it's, I don't know. I would just say that like you don't need any advice in your career, but I think like that would be something that I would try and keep mindful of.
Yeah. And I think in terms of motivation, we've got, it's all about my son now. I want to, first of all, be, it's cliche, but being a father now, you want to be a role model. You want to be the best that you can for them to look up to and learn. Secondly, provide for the family. But then there's that fine line of what you're saying with time, right? So I think there's that third lever, and there's a quote from Bruce Lee, right?
All right, mate, here we go.
Dear. So the quote was something along the lines of, your children aren't going to remember all the shiny toys and things that you bought them. They're going to remember the times that you weren't there or the times that you were. So for me, it is that balance of role modeling, providing, and being there. So it is that work-life balance. and it is finding that sweet spot.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I think it was kind of sad, but like hearing that from some of these executives, like they were so honest in saying that.
Yeah.
Because it's something you can't get back. Yeah.
I was in that room, and that took me as well. I was not expecting you to say that. Like I don't think anyone was.
No, but like I was like, I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, this is the truth. Like
it was great. It was great to hear. And I think it was a reality check as well, for especially
probably because there was probably some people in that room that probably feel that way as well.
Yeah, like, absolutely.
Yeah,
I think you had a few heads nodding and shaking. And
yeah. So
yeah.
All right, stop being a downer. And
Did you want another joke? No.
So maybe you just want to talk about like people that have been a big influence on you from a mentor perspective.
Yeah, definitely. For me, with with mentors, it doesn't have to be industry specific. There's so many transferable skills that you get, from people's experiences, and it really is. There's only so much that a book can give you. Having a mentor and being able to challenge what you might hear or read, or ask the whys, does go a really long way. And Jason Legue is another really solid mentor of mine. So when we talk about the transition of, how's my, I guess, let's call it persona, shifted since 3 years ago, it's around the time that I did the Young Professionals. It's about the time that I moved from a branch manager's role into a state-based sales role, running the contact center. And that's, again, when I had Jason as a mentor. So I would reach out to Jason very regularly, and it was really good to have someone who was not directly in the industry and could provide a completely transparent lens from a third party. So I think that has really helped me in being able to lean on him and a whole bunch of others as well. So some people within codes, some within the industry, and some out of the industry. So I just think it's really having a lot of those mentors around you and being able to know who to ask for what.
Yeah, he's a pretty good mentor, Jason. He's been around the block a few times.
Yes.
And he has a pretty good idea of what codes do as well. So,
yes, definitely.
So he can probably talk, like even if you have process questions, he's pretty good at probably depicting like what his advice would be and career path. And I think it is important having, like even if you're not part of a young professional network, like knowing that you should actively try and find people that you can like bounce ideas off and whatnot, because it's a pretty lonely career if you don't actually do that sort of stuff. Like you just go to work and go home, go to work and go home, and you just think that that's your job. Like you should like look up to people and find out like how did that person get to where they are? What questions can I ask? And because that person was you one day, and they went through the same challenges, so you may as well like tap in and try and get a bit of a head start and whatnot.
And to be honest, that's what I've been doing for many years. So as I meet CEOs, executives, CFOs, right? My buddies, CFOs, business owners. I always am interested and ask them, how did you get to where you are? And when I first joined the HRIA, I would sit down on the table, start at one end, and ask those questions. Right? Want to know their story, their journey. How did they get to where they are? And also, because I do like reading books, is also ask them, what books are they currently reading. So it's always good for me to go away and just keep building my little library. But absolutely, I've been doing that probably from about that 2018, 2019 mark. So I think when I started really growing, it was asking those questions. And I think as well, something to mention is the label around a mentor. You don't actually need to have a labelled relationship to say, hey, you're my mentor. A lot of my managers, and senior managers over the years have also mentored me. And it's just purely from asking those questions.
Yeah,
so
it's organically.
It's organic, and I know, I've had some, like Brian Campbell really helped me through my branch manager career. And, he just knew I could call him whenever I needed any assistance, even if it was just to have a chat. And he'd guide me. He really just guided me. So he was my direct manager, but I'd call him more of a mentor than I would a manager.
Because those mentors, like they enjoy watching people succeed. They get a kick out of it. Like they're like,
absolutely.
That's my like I helped them in that career. And
yes.
In the end, like the mentee, their responsibility. Like
Yeah.
if they need to do it, but like
Yeah.
people love like seeing people succeed and playing that tiny little part in making up like whatever the formula is for them to be successful. So definitely don't think that people don't want to like help out, because they definitely do.
Yeah, and something that I guess I'm proud of is there's at least 6 names I can rattle off of hire controllers or sales coordinators that I trained into managers or into the next role that they wanted within Coates or in what company they may be in now. So that's something that I'm really proud of. It really is that I'll sit down with all my individuals and that personal development plan, and then mentoring them and training them, coaching them to that next level, giving them kind of additional tasks to help them grow.
Yeah.
And I'm really proud that I'm able to help mentor people within Coates and within our industry.
And then that answer probably ties directly into my next question, which was going to be, how do you define success? Which I guess is kind of wrapped up in some of that answer, I'd say.
Yeah, so I think success, look, for me, it's happiness, but it's also self-satisfaction. So, you set goals, doesn't matter how big they are, right? So right now I'm reading Atomic Habits. It's a great book. And it is just about setting those small steps, right? So each time you tick that box, it's success. All right, so I just think, what do you label success? What does it look like? It's happiness, and it's that self-satisfaction. When I see the managers coming up from under me now and doing really well, seeing their name here and there, I feel that, that I'm doing something right, being able to give back and share what I'm learning. And in turn, I'm part of the mentor program with yourself now. We're getting as much out of it as the mentees, whether it's from the mentors having a chat, or just from the mentees with the questions that they're asking or the way they're thinking. So we're ever evolving and learning as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
No, I definitely agree. All right, mate. Well, thank you for coming on the podcast. I know you're one of the guests that I'm going to talk to all the time anyway, but I really wanted to get your story out there because I think you've got a pretty cool one.
Yes.
And good luck with that 10 years, mate. That next podcast.
Yep, time stamp this episode, mate. No, look, I just wanted to say thank you very much to you and the team for having me on. We have been speaking quite a bit, and I've been following it, since it's gone from the original, almost paper-based one, through to now. So, I think you guys are doing an absolutely phenomenal job, and I think watch this space for yourself as well, Mark.
Yeah, very good. All right, mate, thank you again.
Thank you, mate.